All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome this evening. My name is Kimberly James. I'm the Global Admissions Manager for the Experiment in International Living, and I'm joined here with two other people. So I'm going to go ahead and have you both introduce yourselves as well.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mackenzie Torito, and I am the Program Associate on the Experiment Digital based in DC. And then we also have Isabella with us, which if you want to introduce yourself, Isabella.
Okay, is my mic working? Everything's good? All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Isabella Grammer, like she said, and I was a 2019 Experiment Digital alumni.
We're so glad to have you, Isabella, and to have you share your experiences as an alum. So I also want to make sure everyone out there knows that too. So if you have any questions for an alum about their own personal experience, please feel free to share those as well with us. Great. So I'm going to hand it over to Mackenzie to get us started.
Yeah, so I thought we'd start with an overview of the Experiment Digital. What is it? So the Experiment Digital is an 8-week virtual exchange program that happens over the summer that helps high school age students from Algeria, Iraq, Yemen, and the US become more civically engaged by empowering them to plan and execute a community service project. And so to give, even more of a broader overview of what our program looks like and the structure of it, the Experiment Digital is supported by the Stevens Initiative, which was started in memory and honor of U.S. Ambassador Chris Stevens, who is an ambassador in Libya. And the goal of the Stevens Initiative is to foster mutual understanding and create friendships between youth in the Middle East, North Africa region and the United States. And so the Stevens Initiative and the Experiment Digital are sponsored by the U.S. Department of State with some funding from the U.S. government. And then the Stevens Initiative is administered by the Aspen Institute. And the Experiment Digital is also a program of the Experiment in International Living, which has provided summer study abroad in-person exchanges for over 87 years. And the Experiment Digital, before it was the Experiment Digital, was the Digital Young Leaders Exchange Program, or DILEP, which ran from 2016 to 2017 and connected 300 high school students from Iraq and the US. And so with the Experiment Digital, this is our second summer, our second program. We'll connect 800 high school students this summer from the US, Algeria, Iraq, and Yemen. So we've expanded to reach even more students and even more countries this summer, and we're very excited about that. Kimberly, I will pass it back to you to talk a little bit more about the program goals and some activities.
Yes. So looking at the goals of our program, so looking at Experiment Digital, we really are looking for those leadership skills, looking at leadership and global competency. So that's looking at critical thinking, cross-cultural communication, and really thinking about what are some leadership roles you can also take in your community. And on that note, it's also looking at civic participation. So at the completion of the digital program is when you get to then think about your own type of project. What would you like to do in the community? How can you be active in your community, or what can you do to really enact a change for those in your community? And as I mentioned, there's also that mutual understanding. So that's between all the participants in our program, so those that are residing in the US, Algeria, Iraq, and Yemen, really getting to know one another on that basis of like, what is daily life for each of you, and what does it look like? What are the similarities? What are some of the differences? And if there's even any reasons you want to share, like why you do the things that you do differently, and really getting to understand not just that cross-cultural understanding, but also across multiple cultures as well. And then, of course, one of the highlights of the program is building those relationships. So it's peers, so high school students in the U.S., getting to know high school students in Algeria, Yemen, Iraq, getting to know everyone on that same level, and also just people who are your same age as well. So some of the activities you'll be doing, as you said, the program is an 8-week program starting on June 22nd. It's entirely online, so that's really good right now, and making sure that you're able to safely participate in this exchange program while you're still at home. You'll have 4 different modules, and each module is for 2 weeks long. And that's kind of scaffolds as you go through the program. So the initial start is looking at leadership and identity, looking at your own personal identity and also as a cultural identity and those cultural differences between. And then starting to identify what are some community issues within your own community and digital citizenship. So what does it mean to be a citizen and what of your community, of the world, just making sure that you're taking responsibility for your own citizenship. And then that leads into the action planning, where you then get to think about what is the next action step you want to take. Now that you've had this exchange and you've got in to talk about different issues and different communities, what is there something different that you would like to do in your own community? So looking at this a little bit deeper, what those activities entail, there's a wide range of different activities that you'll be doing on the program. So this is an example from this past summer that this was a participant who was sharing about their own experience in their neighborhood. So they shared a picture of their food, what their breakfast looks like, a picture of their community. They also shared some pictures of their own personal rooms. That way they could share that with the rest of the participants in their group. To kind of get to know, like, what does it look like from your own perspective? And then other people got to share theirs too. So you get to see, like, what does everyone's room look like? What does everyone's neighborhood look like? And see if things look similar, different, and get to learn more about one another in that way. Some other opportunities you'll have, this is another activity that was done preparing for that project. So while you're still in your small groups, you get to think about what is it that you want to do to be able to give back to the community, and then also thinking about what is your timeline to get there, what are the steps you need to take. So this particular person wanted to start a YouTube channel, and these were the steps that the participant came up with for having to be able to complete that goal. And then, of course, as we talked about, they're going to be in small groups. We call these groups families. And so in your family, you'll have participants from all of the 4 represented countries. And so it's a great way for you to talk to one another, where you'll have some live chat opportunities as well as some discussion opportunities as well that you'll be able to build off of, sharing your posts and your pictures and any videos that you want as well, and just really getting to know each other on that small scale setting. You'll also have a neighborhood, which consists of multiple families. So you get your small group setting to get to know one another really deeply, but also getting to know a larger group of people too, and sharing those different perspectives. And then also going into leadership skills, one of those important skills is learning how to set your own goals. So we go over the SMART goal model, which is making sure that you're coming up with goals that are relevant and achievable and appropriate for the setting that you can do. So that way you're helping to set yourself up for success as you go into your project. So at this point, and I do see here, there's someone who had a question if any participant will be able to talk today. And yes, that's why we have Isabella with us today as an alum of this past summer. And Isabella, I'd love to give you the opportunity. I was just talking kind of in general about different activities. If you could speak more specifically about your own experience, the activities that you know were highlights to you, and also a little bit more about your digital family that you had.
Okay, thank you, Kimberly. I'm really happy to be able to talk to you guys today, so thank you for the opportunity. Basically, I'll just give you all the details of my experience. How it works is the facilitator every day and all through the week, they put down topics and ask questions, and that's how the conversation within your neighborhood gets going. One specific question that I remember we discussed pretty thoroughly on was community issues. Basically, the facilitator would talk about, they would ask the neighborhood, hey, so what are some issues in your community? What are some possible solutions to those issues? And what are some current solutions being used to combat that issue in your community? So it was really interesting to see all the answers, because I know there was a lot about gun violence and corruption in government and pollution and LGBTQ issues. And it was really interesting to see all of the similarities, even though we're like half a world away from each other. Another example of one activity that we did would be Martin Luther King Jr. I Have a Dream speech. I'm sure most of you are familiar with him and his work, but what we had to do was we pinpointed an issue in our community that we were very passionate about, and then we chose that issue and we created a speech, our own I Have a Dream speech. We filmed a video and we sent it in to with the other neighborhoods, and so all of the TED members could see, like, hey, what we're passionate about. And it was a really good way to work on our public speaking and also get an idea of what everyone's projects were probably going to end up being. As you guys know, you do have to implement a service project at the end of the program. And it may seem daunting, but the Experiment Digital does a really good job of spacing it out and working on planning techniques such as the SMART goals that you see on the screen to kind of break it up and not be as scary as you think. But it's also really, really empowering to be able to pinpoint an issue in your community, find a solution to that, and then build a community service project from the ground up, knowing that you're making a difference in your community, whether it be big or small. One thing I did want to talk about, which is probably one of my favorite parts of the program, was our Insta sharing. Instagram was actually a really, really big part of the program last year. And basically how it works is the Experiment Digital Instagram posts a prompt every single week. And it could be anything from like, hey, what are some foods that are common to eat in your culture, or what is the street view? Like, what do you see when you walk out of your house? And that was actually one of my favorite ones because I got an in-depth look of what my fellow TED members saw and like kind of got a glimpse into their life. So basically, yeah, you respond to the prompt by posting to your Instagram story or your Instagram post, whatever you're more familiar with. And it's really, it's a really good way to kind of get like further involved with your TED members. So if you guys do want to check that out and get an idea of what I'm talking about, you can go to the Experiment Digital Instagram, which should be at Experiment Digital, if I'm correct, and check out the highlights, and you can see what last year's members did with their Insta sharing. Overall, it really bettered my experience as a leader, and it bettered my confidence and gave me a deeper understanding of the world around me. And I made so many friends because of it. And we all really still do keep in contact, so that's a really, really cool part of the program. It's a really great way to spend your time in the summer, and it's a super simple application. So I definitely recommend you guys apply because it's 100% worth it in my opinion.
That's great. Thank you so much for Isabella for sharing that. So we're going to spend a little more time going into what the projects look like. So I'm going to hand it over to Mackenzie to share more about our alumni project.
Yeah, I'm really excited to take this time to share what some of our alumni from this past summer has been able to accomplish in the past few months. And so I wanted to start with the picture you see on the screen is a group of Iraqi alumni who are working together on their project, and they decided to partner with a local orphanage in Iraq to donate some new supplies, some school supplies for the children there, but also to kind of bring in a day of fun. So playing games with all of the children there, watching a movie together, getting to know one another, and spending some quality time. It was a really successful project, and they had a lot of fun doing it all together. The next project that I wanted to share is from one of our U.S. alumna. She started a club at her school in California to empower girls through financial literacy workshops because that's something that she was really passionate about, especially, you know, if your high school might not have a class like this, it's just something that she found very important. And this project also receives a Girls Build grant. So they have, it's a grant competition that they're a part of and they're funded by, which is pretty exciting. Another project that's currently ongoing actually is with a group of alumni in Yemen. So they're working in their community to empower women by teaching them how to sew and start their own businesses. And so this project is one of our Stevens Initiative alumni small grantees. So they applied, we opened a small grants competition at the end of the Experiment Digital, and alumni had the opportunity to apply for funding opportunities of up to $1,000. And so this project was chosen because it is just a really great project that was put together to combat a specific issue within their community. And so they are currently working on that and have been making a real big difference with these women and their families. One of our alumna in Algeria decided to start a website in which she creates motivational videos depending on the different topics that some of the youth in Algeria and around the world want to talk about. And so she uploads new videos all the time and has been working really hard on that to kind of motivate others and encourage others to follow their passions or to solve issues in their communities as well. And the last project I have is another one from Iraq. So we have another group of alumni who started an environmental cleanup and tree planting campaign in Baghdad after taking a look at their community and noticing that there's a lot of trash on the streets and not many people giving back and planting. So they took the initiative to start that and bring a whole group of alumni together to work on that project. And so I also wanted to turn it back over to Isabella to talk a little bit about her project and what that experience has been like for you with, the whole process of designing a project over the summer and then now implementing it and what that's been like.
Right, thank you. Okay, so my project, the topic that I chose was mental health resources in my high school, seeing as mental health is such a widespread issue that affects really everyone alive. I figured it was perfect, especially for people in my age group. Personally, my high school doesn't really have a lot of resources until just recently when they began, I think Florida, my state, began this mental health training that we all have to go through. It's like 2 weeks and an hour every day. So that kind of took a chunk out of my service project, seeing as that's what I was planning on doing, but obviously it's for the better. So the planning process was actually pretty simple. We worked up slowly to it over the summer with different questions, with a SMART goal. So it really wasn't that hard to put it together, seeing as mine is pretty like a simple concept. But it's definitely, in the past few months, there have definitely been a lot of difficulties with me trying to get to the people. I know Mackenzie, I was working with her project advisory circle, and she knows that I've had a lot of difficulties with reaching people and just getting my time across and trying to get the word spread. But Ted did teach me to be adaptable, so it's no problem, of course. And right now, obviously, with the pandemic going on, I had to put a pause on my project, seeing as I can't really go to school and talk to teachers or get the stuff going on. But my plan is when school comes back in the fall, seeing as we probably won't go back this year, that I would like to implement service dogs, for the mental health. So for exam days, to bring a little brightness to the week, seeing as a lot of stress can be happening, I'd like to bring in service dogs, and then also implement a link on the school website to a bunch of resources and like how students can reach out, and then of course like put flyers around the school, because we do have one mental health counselor, but no one knows about her. And I was like, okay, that's a big problem. We have the resource, but it's not being, I can't get the word, but no one knows about her. So I definitely want to put that out there because I think that could really change a lot of people's mindsets and really help out a lot of people at my high school. But yeah, it's definitely still a work in progress, and it's really, really flexible. The Experiment Digital has been really, really great with the way they help out people who are working on their projects. I'm very grateful. But I'm very excited to work on it in the future, and hopefully in the fall I can get it like up and running. But yeah, the project has just been really great, and it's made it really is a really great part of the Experiment Digital program as a whole.
Thanks, Isabella, for sharing about your project and kind of where you are, especially with everything that's going on. I did want to touch upon something that she just mentioned. So this past year, we introduced project advisory circles, or PACs. And so after the Experiment Digital ended, once it concluded, we introduced these PAC groups in which students could sign up for extra support. So they were put in smaller groups of about 5 to 6 students within the same either state or region and country, so that they could maybe collaborate on projects. We would meet about once a month to talk through any issues that they were having with their projects, some successes, for 6 months post-program. So we just wrapped up those circles, but it's a great opportunity to be able to have some more support with putting a project together, because it can seem very daunting once you're ready to implement, but the support there is very helpful.
Great, thank you both. So looking at the Experiment Digital, you might be asking yourself, why should I participate? We talked a little bit earlier about the leadership skills and all the soft skills that you'll be gaining from it. So I just want to take a moment to talk about the tangible things that you'll also be receiving at the end of the program. So the first is the certificate of completion. So that's the certificate of completion in leadership and global issues analysis. So that'll be a certificate that you'll actually get to have to say that, hey, I completed this 8-week program and I was a full participant, completed it. But then also, because we are a Department of State funded program, you will become an alum of the Department of State and have access to that full network. So you'll have access to, I don't even know, thousands of other alumni that you can then network with, and also the whole resources that they have available. And so that also goes into project funding from the U.S. Department of State. So that's a great resource to have, not only for this particular project with the Experiment Digital, but also in the future, if there's other projects you want to do, there's funding that the Department of State has available for their alumni. And then also, once you've done this digital exchange this summer, you will be granted a $400 scholarship to participate in the Experiment International in-person programs to travel around the world for the following summer. So that's for summer 2021. And then I just want to hand it back over to Isabella, put you on the spot again. If you just want to talk about, I mean, these are some of the tangible things, but just for you in particular, what would you say are some of the biggest things that you gained from the program?
I think for me, like I mentioned earlier, it's really bettered myself as a leader because we focus a lot on building leadership skills. It's really opened my eyes to the way other people live around the world and what other cultures are made up of and how different they are, but also how similar they are at the same time. It's bettered my confidence, my communication skills, and it's given me a lot of friends. So I've made lots of connections with people all across the globe. And like I said earlier, we all keep in touch. There's a lot of group chats for like the Experiment Digital United States groups, the Experiment Digital, my neighborhood personally and my family. So it's really awesome to be able to communicate on an every once in a while basis to all my fellow alumni. Yeah, and then of course the support, like I mentioned earlier with the Project Advisory Circle was really great because I don't know if I would have been as successful with my planning if it wasn't for them. But yeah, definitely beneficial and 100% worth it. So I really appreciate the help that Experiment Digital has gotten me.
Great, thank you. I did see the question for some clarification about what I was talking about for next summer. So, well, we're talking about two different pieces. So first is this summer, getting to participate as Experiment Digital participant. So this is doing the virtual exchange. And then I mentioned the $400 scholarship, which is for next summer, summer 2021, to participate in an in-person traveling exchange to another country. So if you're interested in learning about what those exchanges look like, you can go to our website at experiment.org. All right. So I have seen some questions about what does it take to be eligible for the Experiment Digital. So these are the requirements. You have to be between the ages of 14 to 19 years old and currently enrolled or have not yet completed high school. So if you're someone who is maybe in high school but just like going into your senior year, or you're in your senior year about to finish, you're eligible for this. And then you also have to be a resident of the United States, Algeria, Iraq, or Yemen. It is these 4 countries that are involved in the Experiment Digital Exchange. And then there's also the basic English language competency. And also because this is a virtual exchange, we do ask that you have access to internet. If that's something you don't have access to, there is a place on the application to be able to indicate that, and we may be able to assist with arrangements if needed. So don't let that hinder you, but do let us know if that's a problem. And then also the most important part is we do want you to be an active participant for the program and to show that you are motivated to be a part, because this program really does depend on people being able to really get to know their digital family. And so we do ask that you do commit to that. So typically it's about a 3 to 4 hour a week commitment over that 8-week period of time. And actually, Isabel, would you mind talking about that? What that was like for the commitment?
Yeah, of course. So the baseline, I think a good baseline is 3 to 4 hours a week, but honestly, it was really, really flexible. There were some days where I spent maybe 10 minutes on the Slack chats, but there are other days, depending on the activities, where I could spend like 2 hours. So it's definitely not a huge commitment, but it definitely is better if you spend as much time as possible to get the most out of the program. But yeah, it's definitely flexible, so it's not necessarily 4 hours at once. It's very spread out.
Thank you. All right, now looking at the application process. So we do have a mixed application process because of the transition that's happened this year because of the pandemic. We do have an exclusive process for some of you who may have already applied to the Experiment International Living. That means for the in-person exchange, which we have suspended for this summer. So for you who have already submitted the application, you would fall under this category of current experiment applicant. So basically what that means is we'll be able to roll over that application that you've already submitted. You just need to let your admission counselor know that you are interested in transitioning to the Experiment Digital, and then you'll need to submit the confirmation form by April 15th. So if that has not yet been sent to you, please let your admission counselor know, or in a moment I'll put the email address where you can contact if you do have any questions or if you do need that confirmation form. Now, if you're someone who's coming to us brand new, we're really excited to have you. Welcome. So for our new applicants, you'll be able to find the application on our website at experiment.org/digital. And so that's where you'll be able to fill in your application. That's where you can fill in some short answer questions about your ability to commit to the program. And if you do think that you have any obligations that may conflict, just let us know about those. And it's also just a great way for us to get to know you, because we're going to take the information that you provide to us on your application, and that's going to be used to put our families together and to put those groups together. So providing as much information as you can really helps us with that whole matching process. Important thing to know is our application deadline is April 15th. That means you have just under 2 weeks to submit that application. And then once we've received your application, we will then notify you of acceptance by mid-May. So once we'll have some time to review those applications, and then at that point, and while we're reviewing applications, the things that we're looking for is the leadership potential, your interest in learning from people of different backgrounds, and your knowledge of the program. We're also just looking for people who are motivated and committed to being a part of the program. And so once we've reviewed applications, that notice of acceptance will be sent mid-May, and at that point, we'll have a confirmation form for you to submit at that time. All right. So I know we just gave you a whole lot of information. I'm just going to scan back through questions that have come through the chat, but if you have any questions that haven't been answered yet, please put that in here. All of us would be happy to answer your questions. I also do want to highlight, if any questions do come up afterwards, please write this down. This is our email address that you can reach us at if you do have additional questions. That's info@experiment.org. I do see one question here. So I saw a question about a participant from the Leadership Institute, and you do not need to submit a new application. What you will need to submit is the confirmation form. So if you have not received that yet, please let us know. Again, email us at info@experiment.org, and we'll make sure to get that to you. And then there's a question here about, is there a fee? Great question. Thanks for bringing that up. There is not a fee to participate. This is a fully funded program. It's funded by the State Department and the Stevens Initiative, so there is no cost to participate in the program this summer. All right, and that looks like that might be all of the questions, but I did just want to give you all another moment if you do have some more questions. Or again, any questions for our alum here with Isabella? this is your opportunity to go ahead and ask while we're still here all together.
I do see one question about if a participant has to take a trip outside of their country that they reside in, if that affects their participation. So no, it doesn't. What's great about being a part of a smaller group, a small neighborhood and family is that you're able to work with your facilitator to kind of figure out those travel arrangements and your participation in the program. And since it's so flexible, since it is all online, it is fairly easy to kind of keep up with everything while you're on your trip or your travels.
I see another question about what is the acceptance rate of applications received. Mackenzie, do you know if there's an actual acceptance rate number that you have for that?
No, so I don't have a number. Our goal this year is to have over 800 students participate in the program. And so we really do look for those students who meet those eligibility requirements, but also have that strong interest in the program and are really passionate about developing their leadership and cross-cultural communication skills and getting to know people from different backgrounds. And so if students kind of meet all of those requirements, then they are generally accepted into the program, because we do want to reach as many students as possible, because this is a great opportunity to connect with others.
All right. There's a question about if there's a separate application for the Department of State funding. And no, there's nothing that you need to do for that funding. Well, or maybe all right, so let me backtrack a moment. So there's no separate application to participate in the Experiment Digital. Like for the funding that we receive, that is all done through the organization. However, for once you turn into that project phase, there is an opportunity to apply for additional funding for your project. And again, Mackenzie, would you like to speak a little bit about what that process was like?
Yeah, so we opened the grants competition to all of our alumni. So anyone was welcome to apply for up to $1,000. And so with that application, we had it open for a few weeks, and then we did a review process. And this year we selected six projects to fund. So we have one from Iraq this year, one from Yemen, two from the U.S., and one from Algeria, two from Algeria. I think I did my math right. But it's a really great opportunity to kind of have that extra funding to help kind of bring your project to life.
Great. And can you speak a little bit more about the families and neighborhoods and the typical number of participants you can expect in each?
Yeah, I definitely can. So with the Experiment Digital, having 800 students all on one platform, we divide them into neighborhoods. So neighborhoods are groups of about 20 to 25 students, and they are led by a trained facilitator that undergoes a month-long extensive training with us. And so those neighborhood groups, that's where a lot of the activities and the discussions take place, those groups of 20 to 25. And then within those neighborhoods, they're then split up into smaller groups called families of about 5 students in each group. And it's within those families that students participate in video calls and more of that face-to-face interaction online to do some in-person virtual discussions with one another.
Great. And then there's also a question about if this is through Skype, Zoom, et cetera, and it's through Flack, which is its own program, which would allow for the video chat to take place as well. So it's not through any of those Skype, Zoom, it's with Flack.
Yeah, so all of the neighborhood discussions and main activities take place on Slack, and then the video calls do take place on Zoom. So students connect through that platform.
question if this process is open to all alumni, and I think that was specifically to the project funding, if that was your question. And so, yeah, all of our alumni are welcome to apply for that project funding of the digital program.
I also see a question about if there is an interview for admission. So we don't generally have an interview process, but we do with our partners in the MENA region, our staff there, we do conduct English language calls to be able to determine kind of your English language skills and how confident and comfortable you are with speaking in English with others. So some of our applicants may be asked to engage in those English language calls with staff. I also see another question about, is it better to participate once they're also able to participate in the experiment and international living programs, the in-person? In my opinion, I think it's a great opportunity to participate in the experiment digital first to kind of have that introductory experience with meeting others from different cultures and backgrounds and having that digital exchange, because I think the skills and the soft skills that our alumni take away from the program are really helpful with the in-person travel and the in-person exchange. Plus, they're then eligible for that $400 scholarship for the experiment's in-person program.
And then there's a question about the specific countries that are chosen for this, since it is limited specifically to those participants who reside in the US, Algeria, Yemen, and Iraq.
Yeah, so being funded and sponsored by the Stevens Initiative, our goal is to create that, to foster more mutual understanding between youth in the MENA region and the US. And so we work in these countries specifically because we have a very strong relationship with programs in Iraq, with the Iraqi Young Leaders Program and the embassy there. So we've worked with them for a long time. And then this past year, expanding into Algeria and Yemen was something that we worked with the Stevens Initiative to do. And then next year in 2021, we're hoping to also be able to expand to even more countries.
There's a question about when the results for the facilitator position will be announced. We're currently right now in the interview process for our facilitators. So they will be, they're going through this rigorous interview process to make sure they're prepared, and then there'll be a training that they'll be going through. So the participants won't find out who their facilitator is until the beginning of the program. Okay, I see some more questions about specifically about the Leadership Institute. That's a part of the experiment in international living, and that's something that we're trying to work through. So that's something I know Kirby is in conversations with as your admission counselor. So she's the best person to get specific information about the Leadership Institute program.
I see another question about average age of the participants, if some of them are younger or if they're mostly older. So our program is open to students who are between the ages of 14 to 19, and it's a very diverse mix of ages. And within those neighborhoods that we put together, we also aim to make sure that there are participants from different ages and backgrounds and countries so that it's a very diverse group.
And and along that lines, we have a question about the ratio of boy to girl applicants. It's something that we try to balance, and again, looking at those neighborhoods, having that diversity as much as possible, but it also we're looking at the applications that we receive, so that's a piece of it as well. All right, that's all the questions I've seen at this point. I'm going to pose another question to Isabella. If there's anything that you wish you would have known about the program before you started out with TED, like is there anything you wish as a participant that might have helped you a little bit more, just knowing at the time?
I think for me, honestly, just if I had to say anything for future alumni of the Experiment Digital, it would be do not be scared. I know it can seem a little scary going in to a neighborhood with people from across the world and countries that you've never really encountered before, like interacted with. But honestly, the Experiment Digital is, everyone in there is super friendly, and it's just a super open-minded kind of atmosphere, and everyone is just super open to everyone's cultures and their opinions and ideas, and you're going to make so many friends. So what I would have to tell myself is don't be nervous, don't be scared, because once you jump right in, like, you will make so many connections and you will be very comfortable. So.
Thank you. All right, I don't see any more questions. Do you have any other, Mackenzie? Oh, you're muted.
I thought I clicked unmute, but I didn't. I see one last one about if we'll have the recording available of this webinar for others to share.
Yep, great question, and yes, I'll send that out to everyone as well, so that way you'll have a copy of this recording. All right, well, thank you all for joining us. Like I said, if you do have any other questions that come up later, please do email us. Again, that email address is right here on the screen. It's info@experiment.org. We'll be happy to help you with those questions, or if you have any questions about the application, please let us know. Again, please remember our application deadline is April 15th. And I hope you enjoy learning more about this program, and hope to join you even further into this summer as you explore the Experiment Digital.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining today, and thank you, Isabella, for also joining us and giving an alumni perspective and a participant perspective of the program. It was really awesome getting to hear that from you as well.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Good luck to everyone in your applications. I'm sure you'll do amazing.
Thank you, and I wish everyone a great evening. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.